Okay, so on to the last track for today, man, and specifically the last track for today on the Rock Empire series for Sammy, and then we'll bring this back. We'll try and drop more this during the week of the Rock Empire series, but if not, it'll be this coming weekend. I'll probably see if we can bring it back to Friday, but I'm actually kind of enjoying it on Sunday. We might just leave the Rock Empire series on Sunday as well. But anyway, this over here is Bring Me the Horizon featuring Underoath. Now, I've reacted to Bring Me the Horizon before. I think they are fucking awesome. I love Ollie Sykes' voice. I think we've reacted to a few tracks of theirs, a few of their tracks in their discography, and I found them pretty good. But this is pretty damn new. I think this is like a couple of days old, if I'm not mistaken. It's called A Bullet with My Name on It. I think MGK had a song with that title as well, A Bullet with My Name on It. But then there is something with message. Sammy did send something explaining something about a controversial lyric and whatever else, something to do with Jesus. We'll get to that, and then I'll pull that up and we'll read what that's about. I don't know anything about that. But literally, I just got the message saying, oh, by the way, there was a whole controversy around the lyrics on this kind of vibe. So I don't even know what that's about. So let's see what that's about. But let's go see wherever he mentions Jesus or whatever it is. We'll pull up what Sammy sent me. I think it was actually a message from Ollie Sykes himself explaining the lyric. Anyway, let's rock and roll. Let's see where we go.
Guess this is goodbye. I guess we got what we deserved. Hold on to your heart. I guess I should.
Instrumentation hard as it usually is, right? But hard, but still very melodic, which I really like. That's what I like about Bring Me the Horizon, is that even though the instrumentation can be hard, right, it's still very melodic, which is very pleasing to my ears. This is a lot of fucking strife, a lot of fucking pain, right? So it's almost like to actually feel that your life is a complete waste, essentially, which kind of also playing into alluding to suicide with a bullet with my name, right? It's almost like you signing that bullet yourself and you feel like your life is a waste of time, right? I know Ollie has gone through his ups and downs, stuff like that. I would never advocate for that. I don't advocate for suicide. I don't advocate for any of that damn thing. I'm very against it, right? And you'll have people that will say, oh no, but you don't understand something. No, I don't care. Life is a fucking gift that was given to you and stuff like that. Nothing should be deemed okay for you to take your own life. Nothing. That's, at least in my view. If you don't agree with it, that's perfectly fine. But I'm pro-life in every fucking single which way. Right? Life is unbelievably fucking precious. And if you can't appreciate the fact that you have a fucking beating heart and what it took from a mathematical anomaly, right, to actually get you to have that beating heart, it's just, then you have no appreciation for life itself. And I think we're living in a society where life isn't appreciated anymore, right? A beating heart isn't appreciated anymore. It's just fucking statistics. And I think it's fucking sickening. I think it's fucking disgusting. And I think that any of that kind of shit that's been like permeated and perpetuated through society is why you're getting these fucking laws and these ridiculous laws like in Canada and Holland, where people are euthanizing healthy individuals that just feel like life has gotten too hard and they just can't carry on, and they go and euthanize a perfectly healthy human being. I can understand, right? I can understand the euthanasia of like an old person suffering through cancer and stuff like that to sort of alleviate them of their pain and stuff like that. I get that. I get that. I'm not for that. I'm just, again, like I told you, I'm pro-life all the way. Because that is the way it is, right? Suffering is unfortunately part of life, and it's something that we need to learn to deal with. But today, how we've sort of diluted suffering in the sense that, well, I just can't deal with my life. So now we'll just industrialize it. We'll industrialize euthanasia. I mean, fucking, what's his name? The mad fucking doctor from the Nazi era. What was it, Goering, or what was his fucking name? Anyway, that crazy doctor from fucking the Nazi era. That's that Nazi level type shit. You know what I mean? When you start passing laws that people is just like, well, I just don't want to go. Oh, that's cool. No, we'll make it clinical for you. We'll sanitize it for you. We'll make you go easy. It's almost like, yeah, no, absolutely. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to help that person to, you know, try and get them out of that slump, it's like, nah, we'll just kill you. Do you know what I mean? That's what happens. That's what happens when you have a society that glorifies that kind of fucking bullshit. So I'm not for it. But, okay, carry on. So that's holding on to a lot of pain over there, and that's what he's basically alluding to here, where he says that my back hurt, that my back hurts your knife, right? Because he feels like people have consistently been putting knives in his back, right? And it's almost like they get a kick out of that, like if people just putting knives in their back. So it's almost like saying, I'm sorry. It's like, not only do you put the knife in my back and then you play victim. So I'm sorry that my back hurt your fucking knife. Do you know what I mean? So it's a nice way to flip that, essentially. Still no reason to not feel like your existence is good enough. But anyway, carry on. Let me kiss his face. I promise Okay, so it says Jesus Christ returns, we'll kill that fucker twice. Okay, so let me just find out what it is, because I think it was based on that lyric. Let me just go to what Sammy sent me, that Ollie Sykes wrote about this entire story. Bear with me, let's just read this quickly. Okay. Quite a lengthy little response over here. Okay, so Ollie, so he says, Ollie here, while I do not believe in personified God, I have lyrics that reflect this perspective. I also have friends who are believers and whose faith are profoundly helped and transformed them for the better, and believe organized religion brings out the good in a person, then it is a great thing. If it brings out the good in a person, then it's a great thing. It does. In many people's lives, it does bring out the good in them. I consider myself spiritual and believe in a higher power, which is great, and actually think deist would describe me better than atheist. I don't understand deist. At least I understand atheist in terms of like just not believing that there is God, right? Everything's by chance, essentially. But deist is basically like, deist is like, okay, so there was a God that created stuff, but then like he kind of like gave up on it and being like, okay, well then, like it's kind of like, deist means that there was a God that created and then walked away from it, like abandoned it to a certain degree. I think that's what deist actually means. I don't get that. Essentially, and I see sort of like where it sort of came from in terms of like, okay, so obviously the complexity of the world and the complexity of this earth, you kind of look at it and it's kind of like the Einstein's pocket watch theory, right? Where it's like you see the intricacies of the world and it must have been created by something. But the idea that like God would walk away from it because life is difficult and there's strife and there's a lot of pain and things in the world, it's like, well then God just abandoned the world. It's kind of like, no, he created everything and he created everything with a lot of beauty, but then he gave you free will and you are there to sort of, you row your own fucking life. If a car manufacturer makes a car, right, and you crash it into a fucking tree, it's not the car manufacturer's fault that you crashed it into a tree. It's kind of like saying, no, the car manufacturer should have made the car in a way that I don't crash it into a tree. No, he made the fucking car so that you can journey on with that car. If you decide to crash it into a tree, that's on fucking you, right? At least, but that's going to at least teach you something, right? That's at least something that is part of the journey, essentially. The idea that because there's so much strife and pain in this world, because there is strife and pain in this world, is what actually brings out the greatest of humanity in people. If everything was good, there would be no meaning to anything. There would be no value. Because of this pain, because there's sorrow, because there's strife. Those are the greatest lessons that come from that. Do you know what I mean? Everything is as it should be. There's an equilibrium to absolutely everything. Up has to have a down. Left has to have a right. Love has to have hate, right? Or else you don't have a balance in the world. So Dice, I don't understand why there would be a higher power that would create something and then sort of like purposefully walk away from it, right? It makes more sense that he created it, gave people free will and said, you do what you do. And then at a certain point in time, you will have to sort of like, you're going to have to face your judgment day, essentially. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But at the end of it, just Dice doesn't make sense to me. But again, each to their own. But anyway, although I find it a little amusing, people getting mad over the Jesus lyric, it's like, I think it's, I mean, you might find it amusing, but I understand where it comes from in society because of how much religion is being attacked today, right? I'll more on that a bit later. Let me just carry on this. Since I asked an artist with a religious background to sing this line, I want to explain the idea behind the song. The song as a whole is a critique of the pro-Palestine conflict. Firstly, in the sense of how we, the public, discuss and view geopolitical issues through the lens and blame and justification rather, and have justification rather than from a perspective of empathy and emotional engagement. Usually within the extremely superficial understanding of the conflict due to most of the information being absorbed via clickbait headlines, sound bites and memes, rather than the in-depth research. That I actually do agree with him, essentially, because the media agencies and the politicians do all this kind of thing to foment a certain type of fucking narrative within a population to actually have them further divided and to hate each other, right? A lot of the times politicians are speaking out of both sides of their mouths, right? And then that's what actually creates the problem, because it feels like they're part of this, but they're not part of this. They're all just playing the game. You're the fucking pawns, right? Stop pretending like they actually give a fuck about anything, right? All of these conflicts, all of this kind of bullshit, at the end of the day, is money driven for any of the outside entities who are funding them or whatever else. It's money driven. They want money from it, right? For them, it's not so much an idealistic war. For them, it's not so much a conflict of just this or just that. It just means about making fucking money. It's the same thing like with the Ukraine-Russia type vibe. Do you think these politicians give two fucks about Ukrainians? Do you think they give a fuck about how many people are dying? No, it's just about money. It's all a money laundering operation. They make money from it, right? And you're going to have the public that are going to want to talk about these kind of things. It's fine, you can, but if you want artists to talk about certain things, then why only those specific things at the end of the day? Why are you pinpointing all of these kind of things? And then also, why do you want to leverage somebody else's influence that you never built? You never built any of this influence, right? But you feel privy to their influence for them to talk on something on your behalf, right? Why aren't you talking about Myanmar? Why aren't you talking about the Uyghurs in China? Why aren't you, I mean, those are genocidal things as well, right? Not to say that any of them are fucking right, but I'm saying those things are genocidal, real genocidal fucking stories. Myanmar, Facebook helped coordinate the deaths in fucking Myanmar. They helped coordinate the meeting points for the rebels that went and slaughtered 300,000 people in Myanmar, right? Nobody fucking blinked a fucking eyelid. No one cared, right? Because everyone's picking and choosing because the media is telling you which one is more important than the other. They're all devastating. All human life is important. All human life has the same value, and it's devastating on either side of any equation, whether it be Russia, Ukraine, whether it be Palestine, Gaza, whether it be fucking Iraq, America, whether it be whatever it is, human life being lost is a tragedy across the fucking board and should never ever be accepted or at least spoken light of, right? Across the board. But at the end of the day, where you start seeing people like pick and choose sort of which sort of battles and whatever else, you're being played for fools, you're being played as sheep. This is what politicians want you to do to foment. It doesn't change anything. Politicians aren't going to change anything because you have a voice. Politicians aren't going to change anything, right? They're not going to start being like, listen, guys, you know what? Defense industry, stop making all this weapons, stop sending all these weapons. Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon has made a song speaking on the topic, and that's going to end the war. No. Real power operates in the shadows, and they do what they fucking want to do, regardless of who fucking says it, right? You want to have a voice? Vote about it. Vote on it. That's the only way you have a voice. Vote on it. Anyway, let's start from this. Firstly, in the sense of how we, the public, discuss the view geopolitical issues through the lens and blame and justification rather than the perspective of empathy and emotional engagements, usually with an extremely superficial understanding of the conflict due to most information being absorbed via clickbait headlines, sound bites, and memes rather than in-depth research, 100%. And secondly, of how the war itself is being handled by the people in power. You're not going to change it either way. So to come to the lyrics that, unless you vote on it, I told you this, I'll say it again. If Jesus Christ returns, we'll just kill the, coming to that specific lyric. If Jesus Christ returns, we'll just kill the fucker twice. It's intended to serve as a critique of those in power who depose figures of moral and ethical opposition, even or especially if those figures advocate for peace and justice. Okay, so I kind of see what he's basically saying over here, right? I think it doesn't come across that way in the song, right? I don't think it comes across in that sort of way in the song, but I understand what he's basically saying over here in terms of just as how society is, because we are back. Okay, now that lyric makes sense. In terms of like backstabbing, Jesus was backstabbed by a traitor, which was Judas, and that type of vibe. And if he actually comes back, it's not like we've learned anything from it. We'd probably do the same thing. We'd probably do the Judas thing again to Jesus Christ. Okay, I get you. The song is written from an imagined perspective of a war victim, and an entire section containing the lyric in question is meant to encapsulate a sense of despair and rage that even if a figure as significant as Jesus were to return to save the victim of Palestine, Israel, the governing bodies would most likely eliminate them, just like Jesus was executed before. Okay. This is literally what I said. I actually pieced it together before I even got to that fucking part. I actually pieced it together because of the whole backstabbing thing. Okay. Likewise, the back hurt your knife lyric is meant to reflect the twisted logic often employed by those in power who deflect responsibility and instead shift the blame on victims for the trouble caused by their own oppressive actions. Who deflect responsibility and instead shift the blame on victims for the trouble caused by their own oppressive actions. Okay, I see what he's saying. The lyrics was influenced by the location of the conflict and its religious significance more than my desire to shock and offend. To summarize, the song was intended to reflect my emotions on the ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis in Gaza, not my hatred. It doesn't come across as a song about Gaza at all. It doesn't. For me, it comes across as like a song about suicide rather than a Gaza song. I don't know. I was taking a shot at how the Western world is not only failing morally, or that's for sure, we've been failing morally for decades now, to address the rights and humanity of innocent Palestinians and Israelis, but it also perpetuating a cycle of violence and suffering. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, isn't this something that the USA does? Right? It's like, isn't what the USA does, essentially, always playing on the morality card and stuff like that. It's actually crazy because someone asked me an interesting question the other day, and they say, okay, from a perspective, how would you see it? how would you see? Let's talk about the Ukraine-Russia war. If America had invaded Ukraine, how would you see that in terms of with all the media spin and all of that? Let's say America invaded Ukraine for no fucking reason, right? How would that be perceived at the time that they invaded? Right? Would they not be perceived as the heroes? Hollywood has created it that way. They are the saviors. They're the saviors of everything, blah, 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 blah. If they invaded Ukraine, they would have been like, no, there was a reason for invading Ukraine, and you would have just gobbled up all of the narratives and all of the bullshit that they tell you and all the propaganda that they tell you because it's the United States, right? The United States is always perceived as the heroes. The Russians are always perceived as the sort of like Stalinistic, communistic, type people who are always bad. Away in the video games, always like that. Kill the Russians, kill this, kill that kind of vibe. So that's how would you perceive that if America had invaded Ukraine, right, versus Russia? How would the world perceive that? Would they be quiet and people are like, no, it was wrong? And people would be like, no, it's wrong. No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. Do you know why? Do you know why I know they wouldn't be like that? Because when they invaded Iraq for no fucking good reason, the world wasn't like that either. Right? At the time, I'm saying not after the fact. After the fact is obviously, hindsight's 2020. Now we're like, oh no, what we did in Iraq was wrong, blah, 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 blah. Funny enough, none of the war criminals there went to prison. None of them. Nobody. There's been war criminals on war criminals on war criminals in the fucking United States that have taken office and are living out the rest of their lives in mansions. None that went to prison. Not one that went to prison. Donald Trump's though, he's going to prison. Although I'm not a fan of him. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. But this whole politically motivated bullshit to like hold him accountable to some fucking bullshit charges and stuff like that. The former president's absolutely frighteningly pathetic, right? Frighteningly pathetic. I mean, you got war criminals. You got fucking not only war criminals. You got draft dodgers. Right? Draft dodgers that have been dropping fucking thousands of pound bombs on people, right? All around the fucking world for no fucking good reason, and they're not in prison. They're not in prison. You had fucking Bill Clinton, who fucking slept with fucking Monica Lewinsky inside of the fucking Oval Office and then paid hush money to keep someone quiet from fucking talking about he's not going to fucking prison. Do you know what I mean? Politics is politics, people. Don't get fucking played by all this kind of bullshit, essentially. But it's actually staggering at the end of the day when you start seeing the way these games are played. And then they tell you which wars to pick. And then they tell you, oh no, this is the just one. This is not the just one. When America was invading Iraq, that was the just one. And then we found out it wasn't the just one. And all the people that fucking caused that fucking war, none have been held to account. Right? Right? And the way the public just see it is like, oh, it was wrong. Brush, whatever. A million Iraqis dead from that. ISIS that spawned out of the vacuum that caused hundreds of thousands more death around the fucking world. Right? And terrorism around the whole fucking world spawned from that one fucking event. Right? Nah, whatever. Oh, made a mistake. Fuck, whatever. Right? No one plays a morality on that, right? When it comes to, no one plays with morality on that. But anyway, carrying on. Anyway, that is basically the whole thing of that story. Fine, fair enough. He's explained it. I see where he's talking about the lyric, but I must be honest. When it comes to like the Gaza-Israel thing, I didn't get that sense at all that this was a song about Gaza or Israel at all. This felt more like a suicide track to me. About suicide and like sort of going through a lot of demons. I didn't feel like this was a war track at all. Anyway, but that was just my perspective. Let's go. this just sounds like like an individual person's sort of strife that they're going through over here. I do not get this as a war track at all. I don't know if that narrative was built after the fact, but I do not get that at all.
Seek the truth. For my part in this, God forgive me.
You see, it's got like a suicidal thing. I don't know if that narrative wasn't constructed afterwards based on that line over there, because I didn't feel like this had anything in connection with the actual war itself. And then just to come back to what I said in the beginning over there, where he says, I find it amusing that, you know, although I found the whole controversy around the Jesus line amusing, I'll tell you why people have, you know, people who are religious, sort of like they've come to a point where they kind of like are sick and tired of people trashing on the Christian faith. And I'll tell you why they're sick and tired of it, because it's the easiest faith to trash, right? You don't see anybody else doing that. Like you will not dare, none of these artists who are deemed to be brave would dare to try and trash the Muslim faith. Do you know why? Because they would not, they have no tolerance for it. They got zero tolerance for you trying to make a mockery out of their faith. And a lot of artists today are consistently making a mockery out of the Christian faith, right? Anyone who holds their religion to high regard, anyone that has a strong belief, anyone that has a strong belief in thing. And it's only Christianity. And the reason why they do it is because Christianity has become too tolerant, right? With people just trashing their faith. A couple of 100 years ago, you would never be able to do that to Christianity. Right? You would never be able to do what you do today in the art form in Christianity, because you would have your head fucking put through a fucking guillotine. They would never accept that. But we've gotten progressive, which obviously I will never say that that's what that should be done, right? But we're living in a society, a very hedonistic, very satanic sort of society that feels that it is okay to trash the Christian faith. Why? Because it is easy, because there's no repercussions for trashing the Christian faith. I'm not saying Ollie Sykes is doing that over here, right? But I'm saying the way it comes across as a very aggressive line towards a Christian faith. I'm telling you now, neither Ollie Sykes, neither any other artist in the industry that has played these kind of games and have mocked, very much like, what's his name? Little Nas X, that consistently makes a mockery out of the Christian faith. They wouldn't have the balls to ever dare do that to the Muslim faith, right? Or to Islam. Why? Because Islam take their religion to the highest of regard, and they demand that you respect it. You cannot get away with disrespecting their God. You cannot get away with disrespecting their faith. You can't get away with that. Do you know what I mean? But Christianity has become so lenient to the point that people are just making a mockery of Christianity and getting away with it, specifically artists. And I think that the people have actually gotten to a point where they're actually sick of it. They're sick of artists playing on that because it's too easy to play on. And the artists come across as trying to be edgy, right? And trying to be like courageous and brave to go up. There's nothing brave about it. It's the easiest thing to do today because they allow you to do it. You want to be brave? Go after Islam and speak about their God and see what happens then. And then let's see your bravery. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, that's why people are, and I'm not targeting Ollie Sykes on this over here. I'm just saying this is why people have had enough of people referencing Jesus Christ and the Christian faith in music and denigrating that for entertainment, right? That's why I think there was a controversy around that particular line. Other than that, cool song. Not one of my favorites of theirs, but yeah. Anyway, you guys, whether you agree with me, don't agree with me, whatever, put it down in the comment section. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.